I'm Camila, I'm 29, and 2 days after my own father called me a useless freeloader in front of our entire family at a Christmas party, I watched his face crumble as he realized he'd been living off me the whole time. He thought I was broke. He thought I was lazy. He thought I was just his disappointment of a daughter, hiding in her childhood bedroom while real adults worked real jobs. What he didn't know was that behind that bedroom door, I'd built something he could never control. And on December 27th, I used it to walk out of his house forever. The Christmas party at our house was always a big deal. Lights on every window, the huge tree in the living room, my mom Laura rushing around the kitchen, and my dad Daniel playing the role of charming host, at least, charming to everyone who wasn't me. I stood at the edge of the living room, holding a tray of mini quiches I'd baked, trying to fake a smile as my relatives buzzed around. My older brother Ethan was in the center of attention, as usual, talking about his promotion in finance. Everyone gathered around him like he was some kind of celebrity. "Camila, could you put these plates on the dining table?" my mom asked breathlessly, passing me a stack of dishes. "Sure," I said, balancing them on my hip. That's what I was good for, right? Extra hands, quiet presence, background character. I'd been living back at home for almost a year after losing my marketing job when the company downsized. Dad never let me forget it. To him, I wasn't between jobs. I was back under his roof again. I set the plates down and watched as Dad clapped Ethan on the back. "You see," Dad boomed, "that's what success looks like. Ethan here works hard, doesn't sit around all day." My cheeks burned. He didn't say my name, but he didn't have to. Uncle Mark laughed. "You must be proud, Daniel. Both kids doing well, right?" Dad snorted. "Well, one of them is." The room went a little quieter. I pretended not to hear and walked back toward the kitchen, my heart beating too fast. My best friend Chloe, who'd come over to celebrate with us, caught my eye and mouthed, "Ignore him." I tried. After dinner, it was time for gifts. We all gathered around the tree. Kids ran around with wrapping papers stuck to their socks, and the adults sipped wine and laughed. I sat cross-legged by the tree, holding the small gift I'd bought for my parents, a framed picture of our family from a beach trip years ago, when things were still softer, when my dad still kissed my forehead and told me he was proud. Okay, everyone," Mom said. "Let's open gifts." Ethan gave Dad an expensive watch. Dad held it up like it was a trophy. "Now this," he said. "This is a gift." "Thank you, son." I swallowed, suddenly embarrassed by my simple frame wrapped in red paper. "What about you, Camila?" Dad asked loudly. "Did you manage to scrape something together with all that money you're not making?" A couple of relatives chuckled awkwardly. My stomach turned to ice. "Dad," I said quietly, "I got you something. It's not big," but he waved a dismissive hand. "I'm just teasing," he said, but his tone was sharp, not playful. "We all know you're still figuring things out." I forced a smile, stood, and handed the gift to my parents. Mom opened it and smiled softly. "Oh honey, this is beautiful." Dad glanced at it and shrugged. "Nice," he said. "At least you can still buy picture frames." Silence spread like a stain. Chloe looked horrified. Ethan shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. I felt my throat tighten. I've been working, Dad," I blurted out. "I told you, I have freelance clients now. I'm building an online business." "It's just not." Dad cut me off, standing up and raising his voice. "Oh, come on, Camila. Stop calling it building a business. You sit on your laptop in your pajamas all day. I pay for this house. I pay the bills. You're not a founder or entrepreneur." He spat the words out like they tasted bad. "You're a freeloader." The word hit me like a slap. The room went dead quiet. Someone coughed. A little kid stopped unwrapping his toy. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. "I'm not a freeloader," I whispered, but my voice shook. Dot kept going. "You're 26, Camila. At your age, I already had a house, a wife, and a real job. You just drain my money and bring nothing back. You think making a few posts and emails online is work. Grow up." My eyes burned. Mom touched his arm. "Daniel, that's enough." He pulled away. "No, Laura, she needs to hear it. Everyone in this room works. Everyone contributes. She's just taking and taking. Useless. I felt something inside me crack, something that had been weak and fragile for months. I put my hand over my mouth, stood up, and walked away before anyone could see me cry. Behind me, I heard Chloe say, "You didn't have to talk to her like that." But I didn't stay to hear his answer. I shut my bedroom door and leaned against it, my chest heaving. The fairy lights on my wall blurred as tears filled my eyes. Useless freeloader. If only he knew. If only he'd bothered to ask. My laptop was open on my desk, notifications still pinging softly. I wiped my face and walked over, staring at the screen. New payment received, $4,200, contract signed, social media, strategy for 3 months, Zoom call scheduled, the 27th of December, property closing yes, property closing, for 9 months. I'd been working as a freelance digital marketer and copywriter for international clients, US-based brands that paid in dollars. I'd started small, doing $50 blog posts, managing one Instagram page, writing email campaigns, but I was good at it. Really good. Word spread. Referrals came in. I upgraded my rates. I learned. I hustled. I stayed up until 3 a.m. on calls because of time zones. My dad thought I was sleeping in and wasting time. He never walked in when I was on a client call. He never asked what I was typing. He only saw me in pajamas and assumed failure. I opened my bank app and stared at the numbers. Enough for a down payment. Enough to pay 3 months' rent. Enough to prove, beyond doubt, that I was not living off him. I'd planned to surprise my parents on New Year's Eve. Tell them I'd bought a small apartment. Show them that their failure of a daughter had built something. But now I wanted something else. Not a surprise. A lesson. There's a special kind of anger that doesn't scream. It goes quiet, focused, sharp. That's what I felt as I sat at my desk, Dad's words echoing in my head. Freeloader. Opened my email and pulled up a thread with my real estate agent, Alex. We'd planned to sign everything on December 30th. I took a deep breath and typed, "Hi, Alex, is there any chance we can move the closing to the 27th instead? I'm ready with everything and would love to wrap it up sooner." I hit send before I could overthink it. Then I scrolled through old receipts and bank transfers. Rent I'd secretly paid when Dad had complained we were short 1 month. Grocery bills I'd covered. The money I'd lent Ethan when he'd been too embarrassed to ask Dad for help after overspending on his car. Yeah, the freeloader had been quietly holding some cracks in this family together. My phone buzzed. "Chloe, I'm in the hallway. Can I come in?" I opened the door, and she walked in and immediately hugged me. "That was disgusting," she said into my shoulder. "Cam, I'm so sorry." I pulled back and wiped my face. "He really thinks I'm useless." "He's wrong," she said fiercely. "What are you going to do?" I looked at my laptop screen, at the email I'd just sent. "I'm going to prove him wrong," I said, in a way he's never going to forget. To understand why his words cut so deep, you have to understand our history. Growing up, Dad loved to say, "In this family, we don't quit." But what he really meant was, "In this family, we follow my blueprint." Ethan did. He picked business. He got the internship. He wore the suits. He became everything Dad understood. Me. I loved writing, design, stories, social media. I studied marketing and digital media. Dad called it a degree in scrolling. When I lost my first corporate job due to budget cuts, Dad didn't comfort me. He sighed, shook his head, and said, "Well, what did you expect with that kind of career?" I moved back home to save money, promising myself it would be temporary. While he rolled his eyes at my little projects, I built a client list. I filed taxes. I registered a small business. And Mom, she knew. She'd seen the invoices, the contracts. She'd insisted I use some of my income to help with the house. "Don't tell your father," she'd said softly. "He'll just turn it into a competition." So I paid anonymously through her, through Ethan, through joint accounts. Dad never noticed. Or maybe he noticed the bills were magically getting paid and just assumed he was the hero again. So when he called me a freeloader, he wasn't just wrong. He was insulting the very person who'd helped keep things afloat. The day after Christmas was awkward. No one mentioned Dad's outburst. He acted like nothing happened. He whistled while making coffee. He hummed in front of the TV. I avoided him completely. Mom knocked on my door mid-morning. "Can I come in?" I nodded. She sat on the edge of my bed. "Your father. He went too far last night." I stared at my hands. "You didn't say anything." She flinched. "I tried. You know how he is when he's in front of people. He performs." "I'm not a prop in his performance," I said quietly. She sighed. "I know, and I know you've been working hard. I'm proud of you, Camila." I felt my throat tighten again. but this time with something softer than anger. I wanted to surprise you, I said. I was going to wait until New Year's Eve. Surprise me with what? She asked. My phone buzzed. An email notification popped up. Subject: reclosing date. Confirmed for December 27th. I looked up at her. With the fact that I bought my own apartment, her eyes widened. What? I turned my laptop toward her and showed her the email, the documents, the bank statements. I'm not freeloading, Mom, I said. I've been paying for things. I've been working. I've been building something. I just didn't shout about it. Her eyes filled with tears. Oh my God, Cam. She pulled me into a hug. I'm so sorry we didn't defend you more. We're going to fix that, I said. Tomorrow, I woke up early on the 27th. For the first time in months, I wasn't anxious about my future. I was clear. I dressed in something simple but put together. Black jeans, white blouse, my favorite blazer. I did my hair, put on a bit of makeup. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't see a useless freeloader. I saw a woman who'd clawed her way out of failure. I walked into the kitchen where Dad sat with his coffee and newspaper. He glanced up, eyebrows raised. Wow, you're dressed. Got a hot date. I took a breath. Actually, I have a meeting. Oh, he said. Job interview. Finally. No, I said, but it is something important. He smirked and went back to his newspaper. Sure, don't be late for your important laptop time. I didn't respond. Mom watched quietly from the stove, our eyes meeting for half a second. She gave the slightest nod at the lawyer's office. Alex greeted me with a firm handshake and a smile. Excited, terrified, I said, but in a good way. We signed documents. We went through terms, and just like that, I owned a small, one-bedroom apartment across town. When it was over, Alex said, Congratulations, Camila, you did this on your own. That's something to be proud of. I smiled. You have no idea how much that means to hear. On my way home, I stopped at a print shop. I printed out a few things: the property deed in my name, a summary of my last 6 months of earnings, receipts of payments I'd made toward the house and Ethan's loan. By the time I reached home, my nervousness had turned into focus. When I walked inside, Chloe was already there, sitting on the couch with Mom. Ethan was scrolling on his phone. Dad looked up from the TV. What's this? A family meeting, he joked. In a way, I said, standing in the middle of the living room. My hands trembled slightly, but my voice was steady. I have something to say. He frowned. Can it wait? The game's on. No, I said, it can't. Mom turned off the TV. The room fell silent. 2 nights ago, I began. You called me a useless freeloader in front of our entire family. Dad shifted in his seat. Oh, for God's sake, are we still on that? I was just being honest. Maybe if you don't, I said sharply. Just listen. His mouth snapped shut. I held up the printed pages. You think I'm not working. You think I'm living off you. But here's the truth. For the last 9 months, I've been running a freelance marketing business. I have international clients. I make more than enough to support myself. I handed the first page to Chloe, who read it, eyes widening, then passed it to Ethan, then to Mom, then to Dad. Dad barely glanced at it. Freelancing, he scoffed. That's not a real job, really, I said, because this not real job paid this household's electricity bill in July, and part of the mortgage in September. I handed him another set of papers, receipts and bank transfers. See those deposits, that's my money, funneled through Mom, through Ethan, to keep this house running when things were tight. But sure, I'm the freeloader. Ethan looked stunned. You paid my loan. I met his eyes. You were panicking. You asked Mom. She asked me. I didn't want Dad to find out and lecture you for years. So I helped, quietly. He swallowed hard, guilt washing over his face. I didn't know it was that much. Dad's face had gone pale. He looked from the papers to me, then back again. Why didn't anyone tell me this? He demanded. Because you don't listen, Mom said quietly. You judge first. Understand later, if ever. I took a deep breath and held up the last document, the property deed. As of this morning, I said, I own my own apartment. It's small, but it's mine. Paid with my money. Signed in my name. No help from you. No real job needed. I handed it to him. He stared at it, reading my name again and again, like it couldn't possibly be true. Bought a place? He asked, voice lower now. Yes, I said, and I was going to surprise you. I wanted you to be proud, but after what you said to me on Christmas, I shook my head. You don't get that moment anymore. Dad opened his mouth, then closed it. For the first time in a long time, he looked small. So here's what's going to happen, I continued. I'm moving out next week. I won't be freeloading off you anymore. Dad, you won't have to see me sitting in my pajamas on my laptop in your house. You can have your perfect version of reality back. Camila, wait, he said, standing up. Let's talk about this. Now, you want to talk? I asked, my voice cracked, but I didn't back down. You humiliated me in front of our entire family. You never bothered to ask what I was doing with my life. You just decided I was a failure and treated me like one. He ran a hand through his hair. I was worried about you, he muttered. You lost your job. You moved back. I thought you were stuck. I didn't know you were doing all this. You didn't want to know, I said. You just wanted me to fit your definition of success. And because I didn't, you wrote me off. He looked at the papers again. I'm sorry, he said. The words sounded foreign in his mouth. I shouldn't have said those things. I was wrong. Mom spoke up. She needed your support, Daniel, not your contempt. Chloe squeezed my hand. She built all this on her own, she added. You should be proud, not ashamed. Ethan cleared his throat. Camila, thank you for helping me. I'm sorry I didn't stand up for you the other night. I nodded slightly. Thank you for saying that. Dad took a step toward me. Camila, please, don't move out because of one mistake. I shook my head. This isn't about one mistake. It's about years of them. Years of you comparing me to Ethan. Years of acting like what I love is stupid. Years of making me feel like I'm never enough. Tears finally spilled down my cheeks, but I didn't wipe them away. I love you, Dad, but I'm done fighting for your respect. I've already proven I'm not useless. I just needed me to believe it. Now I do. He reached out like he wanted to hug me, but I stepped back. I'll send you my new address, I said quietly. If you ever decide you want a relationship with me that isn't based on control and criticism, you'll know where to find me. A week later, I moved into my apartment. It wasn't fancy. The walls were a little scuffed. The kitchen was small. The view was mostly of other buildings, but it was mine. I set up my desk by the window, my laptop open, my ring light and microphone ready. My tools, my real tools, the ones that built this life everyone thought I couldn't dot. As I plugged in my equipment, my phone buzzed. A text from Dad. I'm proud of you. I mean that. I'm trying to be better. Dad, I stared at it for a long moment. Then I typed back, thank you. That's a start. I didn't forgive him overnight. It wasn't a movie. He didn't magically become the perfect father, but something shifted. He stopped mocking my work. He started asking questions instead of making assumptions. Slowly, we began to rebuild. On my first night in the apartment, I sat on the floor with Chloe, eating takeout from the box. So, she said, how does it feel? I looked around, at the blank walls and empty shelves that would soon be mine to fill. It feels, I said, smiling, like I finally stopped living in someone else's story. If you've ever been called lazy, useless, or a freeloader just because your path didn't look like everyone else's, I see you. You are not your parents' expectations. You are not their outdated idea of success. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't screaming or fighting. Sometimes, it's quietly building a life that proves them wrong. If my story resonated with you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your own story in the comments. Who knows, your useless freeloader era might just be the beginning of your greatest comeback. Freeloader era might just be the beginning of your greatest comeback.